Dueling genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. Okay, for this episode, everything goes. Maim, murder each other, I don't care, but keep it clean. Okay, go to your corners, and when the bell rings, it's podcast or be podcasted. So Dan, is Stay Tuned a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
I mean, normally, I don't really like movies to be remade, but Stay Tuned, I think it should be remade.
I kind of agree. So yeah, Dan Peck, welcome to Ideal Remake.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for... I guess not introducing me to this movie, because I'd never heard of this movie, and then both you and my previous guest were like, hey, what about Stay Tuned? And I was like, what is this?
What Stay Tuned is a movie that my sister and I probably saw 1 million times on cable, and rewatching it for today's episode, I remember a lot of it. I hadn't seen this one in a while, and my sister had actually bought me the DVD of it years ago, and I popped it in for it. I was like, I remember which sequence comes next when they're, like, jumping between the channels. So
that's so fun.
This movie is, like, forever ingrained, and this also could be responsible for my TV-obsessed brain. Like, we may have discovered the Rosetta Stone of my career, basically, with this movie.
Well, important question. Younger sister or older sister?
Younger sister.
Okay. So you would have been the one off partying with friends in your room while she's figuring out that your parents are stuck in the TV?
No, neither of us were cool enough to party.
Okay, fair enough.
We're theater kids.
Yeah.
Hi, Marissa.
I also have a younger sister, but I also would have been the nerd sitting and watching TV while she would have been hanging out with, like, friends and being cool and having parties.
No, we were both watching this movie, clearly.
Hell yeah. So, like, you were young. You were a kid when you saw this for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater, but almost certainly, like, right when it came out on video. What year was this one?
92.
92. Okay, so my parents actually bought a video store in 1993, so...
That's awesome!
Yeah, it was, except in 1994 it closed. But, so...
It's awesome on paper!
We almost certainly either would have rented this movie right when it came out, or... we had it from the video store, but then it was one of those that was like always on HBO or whatever, and just like, you know, every family has a couple of those movies that where you talk about it with your family and they're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And you say it to someone outside, they're like, I've never heard of this before in my life. And then you take personal offense.
Well, it's like if anyone ever asks me, what do we do? And I say, marry the mole, and they don't know what I'm referencing, that's sad for me.
I know.
It's a reference to Thumbelina.
Oh, okay.
It's terrible. But yeah, before we get too into it, Dan, introduce yourself to the audience. Who are you? What sorts of stuff do you do?
Who am I is a great question. No, I'm Dan Peck. I am a writer, TV, movies, video games, whatever you want me to do. Mostly funny stuff. I am also a podcaster, and I'm here to shamelessly promote my new show. Thank you, Sam.
You're very welcome.
But yeah, I'm a big nerd. I'm a big dork. Wear my fandom on a sleeve, and I love TV, and it will become very evident as we start talking about this episode too.
And importantly, the name of this new show is...
Oh, the name of... Oh yeah, I'm so good at being a shill, I don't even know how to shill my own show. The new show is called Good Chaotic, a sci-fi actual play podcast. It's a role-playing game.
Great.
Yeah. I thought it would come later, so I wasn't prepared for it right at the top of the show. Yeah, that's fine. No, it's all good.
Genuinely, there are people who don't make it to the end of podcasts, and I'm like, no, let's get those out first, and then we'll do it again later.
Then at Good Chaotic Pod on social medias.
Hell yeah. Good. Okay, so yeah, stay tuned. What were some of the sequences that, like, you remember from when you were a kid?
Okay. First and foremost, the most important thing about the entire movie is... problematic actor aside, yeah, the bad guy in the film works for the devil, and the coolest thing in this movie is that because it's all TV and they go into the TV channels, the character's named Spike has a wrist-mounted, like, Assassin's Creed hidden blade that spins around like a 6-shooter with the TV remote control, and it is the best thing in the world. I wish I had that in real life because I always can't find my remote.
It's so good. I also wanted one so badly. And, like, I watch a lot of TV on my computer. I don't use a remote all the time, but just the idea of just this spring-loaded remote on my wrist that just shoots out... It's Wolverine claws, but a remote.
Yeah, some people would have a Derringer on there, some people... But no, TV remote. That's the important thing.
It's so good.
Yeah. So, yeah, that without a doubt is, like, the iconography of it. I mean, the rest of it is, like... Since there's so many, like, channel jumping, like, I remember so many sequences. Like, I remember, obviously, the animated sequences, a long sequence in the middle, the Wayne's World parody, which doesn't hold up anymore. Like, there's too much. I remembered so much about this movie. Sam, it's crazy.
So let's take a step back. So I watched this movie for the first time yesterday.
Okay.
And it was... I watch a lot of movies for the show, and it's rarely I'm like, oh, if I'd seen this when I was a child, this movie would have been my entire personality. And it's just such a fun idea, and it's an hour and a half. It's just breeze.
Yeah, it's when they made movies an hour and a half.
Yeah, and it's, if you have Amazon Prime, it's free for you to watch. And the basic premise of the movie is that John Ritter is the ultimate couch potato. We start with, like, voiceover from the son, which we do not need, but, like, basically we learn that he is watching TV. Any moment that he's not working the terrible job that he hates, he's watching TV.
It's the midlife crisis guy.
Yes. And so he watches absolutely everything. And to the point where, like, his relationship with his kids is in shambles. His wife's ready to leave him. And so they have this big, massive fight. The kids intentionally go away for the weekend so that the husband and John Ritter and...
Pam Dauber.
Thank you. Have time to be together. And then he instead chooses to watch TV. And so she, like, throws a fencing trophy through the TV.
Yeah. Foreshadowing. And, like, and so the devil, a terrible person who we've learned was terrible, shows up and turns out works for the devil and sells him the best TV ever. With 666 channels.
Ooh.
Which you'd think maybe would have been a red flag.
I don't know. Seems like a lot of channels.
I will say, though, the TV is orange. That was a choice.
Look, it's 1992. We're not quite ready for, like, 90s, but we are still getting over 80s. We're just lucky there weren't shoulder pads. So what happens next?
They get sucked into the TV. There's a big fight, and the parents get sucked into the TV, and they have 24 hours to survive. If they survive, they get to go home free. But if they don't, they die, and they go to hell.
Yep.
Like, their souls get given to Satan, who is watching all of these channels. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, Spike works for the boss, and it's like, oh, the boss likes to watch TV all the time. So you have the ultimate terrible TV executive for the worst audience imaginable until Twitter was invented.
It's true. It's a real Rakdos type situation for those of you who are familiar with Ravnica storylines from Magic the Gathering. So they get sucked in, and the first stop is a game show?
Yeah.
It's like a matchmaker.
Yeah.
A newlyweds show.
Yeah, it's just I think they do that because it's not so distant from, like, they're not in a parody of something specific, so it's like, wait, how did we get here? We don't know we're in TV yet. So it's sort of generic game show.
Yes. And they don't absolutely crap the bed, and they get to move on to the next channel.
Yeah, using, honestly, a very clever device where, like, there's always, like, a portal that takes them to the next channel, and it's TV static. And there isn't really an equivalent of that anymore, but I think that for the time, it is, like, the perfect way to show them changing channels.
I'm trying to think if there's, like, a Twitch thing of, like, the stream will start soon.
Yeah, it's that, and then, like, a skip ad will come up in the bottom.
Yeah, kind of. Legitimately, like, if we were doing it now, they could land on a skip ad thing, and it would take them to the next thing.
No, it's all demonic. There would be no skip ad button.
Oh, that's true.
Where's the skip ad? Where's the skip ad?
Oh, no, we're buffer.
Oh, we'll get into the sport TV stuff. Don't worry, I have plenty of notes on this.
I'm certain you do, because I feel like there's some obvious choices for us to make. But anyway, so basically they end up channel skipping around, and they run into Crowley, who was another demon who pissed off the played by Eugene Levy.
Yeah, this was the first thing I ever saw him in. So I always associate him with this. Like,
That's amazing.
He's been in so many other things that I've loved, but this is how I was introduced to him.
Yeah. And, like, he pisses off the boss and gets sent into the TV himself.
For field work.
Yeah. And they find him on, it's
Northern overexposure.
That's it.
Yeah.
Where you go to die of overexposure.
Yeah. Northern Exposure was a TV show that was my parents, I think they liked for a little bit, but yeah. None of the parodies in this really hold up.
The names do.
Yeah, the names do, but the shows, like, a lot of the shows were already old when the movie came out.
Yeah.
So, but also some of them are what's on TV right now as we're filming.
Right. To the point where there's a moment in Act 3 of the movie where John Ritter steps into a channel and it's the two women from the show that he was on at the time.
That's the best joke in the entire movie. Yep, he falls into Three's Company. It's the theme. It's perfect. It's how I was introduced to Three's Company. It's beautiful.
The two women walk out and go, "Where the hell have you been?" And he screams and then he goes to the next channel. It's so good. But like the parodies are very silly, very demonic, and just seem like the most fun to create. Like, the one that I'm remembering right now is Different Strokes. Mm-hmm. And it's two old men sitting on a couch having a stroke. And it goes, "I can't feel my arm. Why do I smell toast?" Different Strokes.
Yeah, like, some of them are just the Mad Magazine version of it. Yeah. Which is fun. Like, the funniest one... Like, it made me laugh just how bald the joke was, but I've totally forgot about My Three Sons of Bitches. Like, it's just all of a sudden we're taking a movie from a TV show from almost 40 years previously, and we're just adding a bitches to it.
Yep, absolutely. They're advertising Yogi beer. Drink a beer. I don't think it's a non-alcoholic beer so you can behave just like Dad. And it's just like a kind of like a guy sitting in a wife beater and his son also sitting in a wife beater. The son drinks the beer and goes, "Can I get another one, Toots?" And just like to his mom. And it's just like, "Hey, good job, kid." And they're like, "Hey, bonding with your son."
I will say that is this movie for one actor aside, that's about as problematic as it gets.
Kind of.
Like I was like, doing that thing where you rewatch a movie from the 80s or 90s and you're kind of bracing yourself for something really horrible. And thankfully there wasn't any moment too bad in this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, problematic actor Jeffrey Jones aside, like, the worst thing it ever does is it points out the fact that the wife is extremely attractive.
And there's a very mild cross-dressing joke, but it's not even to the point of being, like, transphobic or anything like that. If anything,
there's two.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's the opposite. It's like once they realize that John Ritter is this person in drag and got flirted with by a French Revolutionary Guard, even after that's found out, the French Revolutionary Guard goes, "I would have bought you chocolates."
Yeah.
And then they cut to later when John Ritter is potentially going to get guillotined, and they cut to the audience and one guy goes, "Why is that guy dressed like a woman?" And the dude immediately next to him goes, "I dress like that sometimes."
Oh, hold on. The line reading is, "I do that sometimes," because I've been saying that for 30 years.
So that's one of your secret quotes.
It is.
Oh, that's a good secret quote. But, like, that's exactly it. Of, like, there's no shaming. It's just, I do that. And it's like, you'd think a movie from 1992 would be like, "Gasp, how could you?" Yeah. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of a relief.
Yeah, legitimately. Okay, and then there's one moment when Dwayne and Garth in the Dwayne's World parody are ogling the wife, and then they flip a page and go, "And the daughter's pretty hot too," and it's like, buddy, she's 14.
But they don't show anything, and that's the extent of it. It's just they're demons. Like,
right, they're literally
everything they do is bad.
Right. So it's very much saying, "Hey, what we do is bad. This is bad," and then they do the bad thing. So it's like you can't even call it out because that's as tame as it gets. It's pretty good. So yeah, it was a nice delight to go back to a movie from this and go, I can recommend this to people. I don't have to cash in anything other than, again, the one actor. Yeah. But then you get to say, but Eugene Levy's in it, so it's all good. Yeah. And also, thankfully, Jeffrey Jones is... But he's literally works for the devil. Like, there's no point where we're ever rooting for him. So we know how bad he is. He gets the coolest prop in the movie, and we're mad at him because he gets it and we don't. He also has this
unbelievably long cape when they're in the French Revolution, which is a bit of a cheat because it's like a TV movie of the week for like the French Revolution. It wasn't really like a TV show or a movie or anything, but like he shows up and like the execution is stopped and he has a cloak that is like 5 times too long. It covers like the entire guillotine platform. It's like, that is a good cloak.
It's a good cloak. Yeah. So we're jumping around, but basically like they jump around channel to channel, and we're skipping over one of the more interesting things of there's an entire segment of this movie that is directed by Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
Because it is a Tom and Jerry cartoon style segment that's so good.
Yeah, it's okay. So right when it started, I wanted to see which studio did it, and it was Warner Brothers, so that made a lot of sense that they had access to like a full animation department and stuff like that, though. But yeah, that sequence is really well done. Like it's not treated like a cheap parody. It's treated, we're gonna make a sadistic Tom and Jerry cartoon, still blood free and stuff like that, though. But it fits perfectly, like tonally in there, because the whole movie is a cartoon. Let's be perfectly honest.
Absolutely, it is.
And yeah, it's a wonderful sequence.
Like, one of the movies that I can potentially compare this to is like this does for TV what Last Action Hero does for movies.
Last Action Hero was after this by like probably 6 months. No, I think it was 93.
I'm gonna double check that. I believe you, but like
maybe 94. But like, yeah, this and also this like predates Pleasantville, obviously. But like going into the media is either it's all gonna be heavy-handed commentary or it's gonna be a really fun romp.
Yeah. Well, and I love Last Action Hero, but that's over 2 hours. So it's 40 more minutes than this movie. But again, that's for movies.
Yeah.
Gotta have a whole comment about Amadeus in there. But yeah, so this movie's very, very fun. And we've basically given you a synopsis of it. At this point, I would just say, go watch the movie.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that I recast that we haven't... Oh, there's some demon who, like, Eugene Levy is introducing as, like, here's what's going on down here, who immediately is trying to take Spike's job.
Yeah.
Because demons.
Well, he's a USC film grad.
Yep. Which
they make a point of saying. But also, he's basically, like, the new studio executive. Yeah, they're gunning for one another. Like, that was one of those things that, like, I didn't really pick up as a kid, but it's like, yeah, they're cutthroat because they're TV executives.
Yep. It's exactly it. But yeah, so we've kind of talked about what the movie... Oh, yeah. And then the kids come back and they are like, I wonder where mom and dad are. And there's a giant satellite dish in the backyard. And the son figures out very quickly that they're in the TV, but can't get the sister to believe him. And so he just keeps watching TV, trying to find moments where he can prove that it's mom and dad while she's like having friends over and cheerleading in the backyard. Clearly the people who made this movie have no idea what kids actually do.
Hey, you had to do something before smartphones.
They had to do something before smartphones. And... like, I thought she was in high school, but maybe she was in middle school. Because I assumed when she was having friends over, she was just going to throw a rager. But no, she had like 4 friends over. And eventually he convinces her that they're in the TV. And it's like, okay, great. Now we can start doing something. Keep in mind that she then goes, okay, fix it. And he's like, I will. I would have presumed he should have been doing those things the whole time. But that's separate.
I mean, he was panicking. He's a preteen. They got someone as Macaulay Culkin looking as possible.
It's true.
Backwards baseball hat.
Who has had quite a career on The Young and the Restless.
Work is work.
Good for him. But yeah, so that's the movie. The kids end up, like, John Ritter's having a big showdown against Spike. He's trying to defend Spike with, like, a piece of wood, and Spike's there with a rapier.
Well, before that, though... they pirate the signal because the son is like a tech whiz. So he pirates the signal and breaks into the broadcast, and everyone in the TV show thinks that it's God talking.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
And then, they kick him out, and then contract stuff, and John Ritter has to go back in, save the day. Yeah.
Because basically John Ritter was the one who signed the contract, and Spike goes, I only signed a contract with him. The wife who's in here, she's a casualty.
Yep.
I don't have to kick her out. I don't have a contract with her, but she's in here. And it's like, So John Ritter is free, but he has to go back in to save his wife and go be a big hero. And he ends up saving the day when he is fighting off Spike, and we find out that because he also goes in with the remote this time, and he can jump around to whatever channels he wants.
Yeah, which that sequence is a blast.
It's so much fun. They end up in a Salt and Peppa music video.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
And they do a surprisingly good Star Trek Next Generation parody.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was also really fun. And then, like, everyone turns around and they're all Jeffrey Jones, and you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. I really am in hell.
Yeah. And so he goes in, because the wife is literally tied to a rail car on train tracks, and the car is full of dynamite.
Yeah.
And so...
And there's even a joke about, like, where's the subtext? Like,
there is no subtext.
Yeah, it's TV. There's no subtext.
No time. And so he goes in, he saves the day, everyone's a big hero. Great, they did it. And that's the movie.
And John Ritter opens up a fencing academy, and he learns that, hey, maybe I shouldn't watch TV all the time.
Right. He gives up his terrible job of being a plumbing supply salesman.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, his wife is a senior advertising exec or something.
Something for a vitamin company.
Oh, yeah. Senior marketing exec for a vitamin company. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, so that's the movie.
She's really good at selling vitamins.
She's good at a lot of things, which is important because that ended up being necessary. There's a whole sequence where they get sent down and they're in a wrestling match with two demons. And John Ritter basically crumples immediately, but Helen Nabel, Roy and Helen Nabel, grabs something off the side, like a microphone stand, and just starts whooping ass on the two demons and kicks their butt, and that's how they get out of that one. And it's great. Okay. What are we going to do?
We're gonna start from the beginning?
I guess.
I don't know.
So
where do you want to begin?
I feel like we have to talk about what the problem is. Because in the movie as it exists, John Ritter is a big old couch potato, right?
Yeah.
Are we still going to have exactly that?
I have a modern day variation, a take on that.
I bet I know what it is, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Okay. I think both Roy and Helen, they just spend every night on the couch trying to figure out what to watch on TV. Like I think that they have fallen into not the marital rut of the 90s movies where it's, I resent you. It's just... They've fallen into the pattern. Every night they're on the couch. What do you want to watch? I don't know. What do you want to watch? They end up 45 minutes of I don't know. We'll figure out something. And so their life is spent doing that. And then once they figure out what to watch, they're on their phones the whole time anyway. It's just screens all the way down.
Okay. Great. Cool. All right. That's fun.
And then one night, a new streaming app shows up on their smart TV.
Perfect. Okay.
And it's called Sticks.
That's very smart. I'm sorry. Continue.
And there's this, the ad pops up for it. Sticks. All of the free programming you never knew. Never fight over what streaming service. It's all here on the Sticks.
Can I make a suggestion?
No. Yes, absolutely.
Sticks. It's all of the things you could possibly ever want to watch. And all it costs you is 2 cents. 2 copper pieces.
Well, no, because no one will ever pay for streaming. They want the free trial or something that's included with their cell plan.
All right, fine, you're right.
Yeah, no, but I think the river Styx, for those not picking up on the subtext,
I think they got it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, of course. Yeah, and I think that rather than it necessarily being just a TV station, it is an entire multimedia streaming app because our TVs now are not just TVs. They are smart TVs. They're hooked up to the internet. And behind everything that we watch, there is always an algorithm, an evil algorithm.
Okay.
An algorithm created by the only force more evil than the devil, Tech Bros. And that's Spike.
Great.
And do you want me to save who I have cast? Okay. So Spike, we never see Spike in the real world. Spike only exists on the screens, whether it's on the TV, what to watch, on the mobile devices, or in the digital space. But that's how, no door-to-door salesman of, your TV broke, have I got the TV for you, friend?
Let me walk into your house and that be okay.
Yeah. So everything is delivered to you as quickly as you could ever want, and just like in the Legends of the River Styx, it's really easy to lose yourself. You start to forget who you are. The same way we lose ourselves in the internet. All of a sudden you fall down a rabbit hole and it's I've been reading Wikipedia for 4 hours.
Yes.
But then the premise is the same though. The parents get sucked in. They have 24 hours to survive, and we can open it up to a little bit wider. I don't want to go full Ralph Breaks the Internet, but because everything is connected to they could end up finding themselves in a TikTok video, YouTube stuff, but primarily TV. And especially because in the original, there are a lot of movie parodies in this now. We're sort of at the point where TV shows are movies in themselves.
Right.
So we're going to start getting to all of the prestige television of the past 30 years. Since this movie came out, there's been a lot of really good TV.
Yeah.
And it's all there. It's all, and a some of the plot beats will change a little bit, obviously, but I think as the premise, like, let's not just have it be, oh, screens are bad. Let's say this is about the stream, you know?
Okay. Although, if you want to lead into it, you can say that when they sign up for the app, the terms and conditions, which no one reads.
That is word for word in my notes, Sam. Yeah, that's exactly it. No, like, basically when they bump into Crowley in the world and Crowley's explaining, it's like no one ever reads the terms and conditions.
So what I was going to say is that the way they get sucked in is the instant they reach for a second screen, one screen up against the second, that's what sucks them in. Because you violated the terms. We can't just let you watch anymore. Now you become a part of the show. And it's all in the terms and services if you'd taken the time to read it. Well, how do I get out? Everything's in the directions.
And we can still have one of the enables being ejected because whoever hits the OK button is the one who is signing the deal.
Absolutely.
So
whoever hits the OK, whoever
yes.
picks up the second device, whatever.
Yep.
Because obviously, and genuinely that's a pretty good twist in terms of like demonic contracts of like, well, you're both in here, but I'm only dealing with this one. Yeah.
And also I have to say like the notion of it being a killer app.
Yes. Yes.
No, just that was my...
But we gotta have an option of them jumping around to all the different shows. And, like, obviously the first one I jumped to is Breaking Bad. And it's, like, hard to make that worse. So it's Breaking really bad.
Breaking worse.
Yeah. And it's like, well, how do you go worse? Hey, kids, you want to buy some meth? And then you keep moving.
Like, you even can get... There is a really funny joke in the Star Trek segment when John Ritter he's Captain Picard, and the first thing he does is touch his head and recoils when he's bald, and you could have Roy do that when you get to Breaking Bad for the exact same, like, just a little nod to the original without doing, like, the same joke, but just like a tiny, but yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So, do they have kids in your version?
Absolutely.
Great. So, how are the kids going to save them, or what did you have next?
Okay, so for the kids, I have, it may be overkill, but I think that one of the kids wants to be a pro gamer.
Of course, obviously.
And I think the other kid wants to be an influencer.
Again, of course, obviously.
And rather than them pirating the signal to, you know, be the voice of God or whatever, the parents, I think they're going to start live streaming. Like, basically, they're going to start their own stream, which is going to, like, they're essentially going to do a Twitch raid, where it's like, they're going to go into the... And so whether it's, you know, one of the kids is using the gamer skills or the influencer, I don't know if you need to get both, but one or the other. Dealer's choice.
Well, I had two thoughts, because obviously when I was watching this movie, the clear comparisons to social media and all those different things are there. So it's like, that's what you're going to have to do. And I feel like you get to have both versions of that. You get to have, and we can start with the influencer of, she gets something trending, she gets some sort of hashtag trending, and that hashtag gets to provide like a video game, like equipment and ammo and stuff that the parents are able to use. But then the way they're able to get out is the son goes live and then has an incredibly popular stream, which makes that a channel. And because the channel is just his room, when they bust through into his room. Okay. So they're just home and they can walk out. Okay. One of them, but not both of them.
May I make a pitch on how they get out instead?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that once it's time to go back in, like you have the remote or whatever, and you have the understanding of the world, I think they're going to start expanding on what TV is now, because TV is very different than what it used to be. So I think once they realize they have the power of on-demand, that's how they can start summoning whatever they want in the world. And because everything is filmed in front of a green screen, they can start changing all the backgrounds and stuff too.
Ooh. And we can treat it as, like, because it's a multi-screen experience, you can watch on the TV, on your iPad, on your laptop, whatever. All you have to do is have the kids set up the laptop or the iPad with the green screen, and then they can run from the TV onto the laptop and then do all of those things.
Well, and then my thought for... Because at the end of the current movie, the way they get out is they press off. Like, when you want the TV to go away, you go off. I think in this one, they should figure out the DVR controls. And they should... cancel series on Spike. Like, would you like to cancel this series? Yes. And then Spike gets deleted, and basically that's what frees them also, too.
Well, especially if we're playing around with television, we're playing around with television now, X number of years hence, Spike means something else.
Spike TV?
Yeah. You're gonna have to go to Spike TV.
But it's Paramount now.
I know. Warner Brothers is gonna have to team up with Paramount, and they hate that.
I'm sure one will buy the other.
Yeah, it's just constant the fish game, but in reality.
Yeah, but like, once they realize like every show films on the volume, like we can have whatever we want appear right here.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, love that. That's so good. Oh man. Okay, so if it's tech bros,
that's just a throwaway joke.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
because we got to still have them working for the devil. Like you got to have.
I think a lot of that stuff still works. Like have it being like it's a content factory. It's exactly that. It's and what's really funny is everything that they make is a remake, and which is, yes, I know we're doing that ourselves right now, but that's what the entertainment industry is doing right now. So they only want remakes and retools and reboots of what's actually happening. So like it's the same. It is a commentary on modern television. You do have, the algorithm is what's controlling what's being brought to people and stuff like that, though. But we still have, the sycophants,
yes,
trying to make their way,
oh man, there's a really stupid joke of that, like, because the parents watch so much TV and have they've seen everything. That's why they don't know what to watch every night. And so they have a good sense of, that's why they're able to navigate everything, is because they know all the tropes or all the different things. Yeah. And finally Spike comes up with the idea of, hey, let's give them some original programming. And that's where they end up in something completely original, and they have no idea what's going on, because like, what do you mean this is new? Nothing's new. How did this even get made? And then that's when you get your celebrity cameo. Oh, now I get it.
Or they're so desperate for something new that they're like too good at it, and Spike's like, no, we can't do this. Back to the reboots. Like, we can't, like, the audiences are too hungry for this. No, we have to go back.
Oh, this is, why does this look good? Why are our numbers going up? No, we need these numbers to go back down. Oh no. That's great. Okay. What are some parodies you'd like to do? What are some genres that we should cover?
Before that, I do want to make one little structure change to the story, and I do think that Helen should be the one who presses the okay. She's the one who gets back to reality and comes back in and rescues Roy.
Sure,
like, let's turn the damsel in distress on there. Like, granted, in this, it really was done as the parody of the damsel in distress, but I think we don't have to do that again.
No, we don't have to.
Especially once we get to who I want to cast in the roles, you'll see why I want to.
I mean, I cast a couple comedians as well. Like, and I did one gender swap. Like, I gender swapped Spike because...
As did I.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It just feels like the right thing to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, you have, like, your Prestige Breaking Bads. You have your Game of Thrones.
Right, so I think instead of a French Revolution thing, I think Game of Thrones type show is exactly the one where there's like the mortal danger. It's like they only have an hour left to survive, and they are stuck in the most dangerous situation imaginable.
Well, you get to have Spike come in as the mother of dragons, riding in, burning everything down. Why not?
Or if we do have the kid be the pro gamer, their game, like they could be playing like a version, like a fake version of Skyrim or whatever.
Yeah.
It's their dragon that comes in or something like that.
Oh man, I mean, you also, like, if it's a pro gamer, if you want to have like a Chuck Jones-esque segment, you could have them go to Minecraft.
Okay, I have 3 pitches for replacement of the animated series.
Hit me.
Okay. The first one I'm going to call the best option. The second one I'm going to call my pick. And the third one I'm going to call Sam's pick.
Ooh, okay. All right.
So the first one, I think sticking with animation is still smart. But I don't think it should be Tom and Jerry or Looney Tunes or something like that, because we're past that. It's been done, and animation has changed very much since the 90s.
It's true.
So the best option would be a Pixar type style movie. Like, even if it's almost like a Toy Story parody, because people die in Pixar movies all the time.
It's true.
It's a real threat. So I think that would be like the safe, real answer. You've got an enemy in me could be the song that plays, whatever.
Okay, that's really good.
Okay. My pick is to do the Clone Wars. To do like, you think it's a show for kids, but there's like, war themes and all that stuff. Sam's pick is to go into Pokemon.
I mean, a little bit.
I said anime, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm going to say Pokemon for Sam. But like, having Roy and Helen having a voice like off-brand Pokemon under the threat of like being killed by Team Rocket or whatever.
Well, you get to have them walking around as your Rattatas or your Lechonks or whatnot. You have them become Squovits, and then Spike shows up with a Groudon.
Navel.
Yeah. Well, no, because what you gotta do is that Helen's gotta be the trainer, and Roy has to be the Pokemon. And so, where's Roy? Oh my god, where's Roy? The hell is this? I don't need this. Oh my god!
I couldn't breathe in there.
Mabel! But you're getting subtitles?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, especially if it's a lot of different anime, having subtitles would be perfect for that sequence too.
Well, we gotta do that for a couple of different things.
Yeah.
You're gonna get your...
Dragon Ball Z type.
Well, not even that. Like, you get your foreign movies, or your just like your Oscar bait, whatever...
Yeah.
Romance.
I am trying to keep it as much on TV as possible because they did cheat that a lot in the original movie. But yeah, again, like their whole sequences in Elvish in Lord of the Rings, in Rings of Power.
If we're gonna do an anime section, I feel like it's got to go to the kids, and it like sub dub, and the kids go, oh sub, wait shit, and then it's all subtitled. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't have parody names for a lot of these, but I have just so many shows that they could go into. Okay. One I'm going to save. Specifically, I'm going to save the mockumentary genre.
Okay.
Until we start talking cast.
Okay.
But know that.
All right.
But, yeah, so we got you got your upstairs, downstairs stuff with the Downton Abbey, the Bridgerton type stuff. You've got your Ted Lasso. You've got Stranger Things. You've got Sopranos, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, dance competition shows. You've got Survivor, No Survivors would be the easiest one of that.
Ted Lasso's pretty easy. Instead of just saying hope, it just says no hope.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Just because I want to throw it out there. Doctor Who. A section with evil Muppets. Like, I think we could do that. Maybe an entire video game section, because you could have them go into someone's Twitch stream or something like that, and it's like, one of the super bloody ones or whatever. Primetime medical soap opera, like Grey's Anatomy. It's like, okay, Dr. Nabel, go ahead and perform this, by the way, the patient doesn't believe in anesthesia.
Scalpel? I don't think you want that.
Yeah, then I have the zombie genre with a combination of The Last of Us and The Walking Dead.
Sure.
And then, just because I want to put it in there, because it does sort of fit with what this is, Quantum Leap.
Yeah. Well, you get to play around with the fact that there's the new Quantum Leap and the old Quantum Leap, and you get to go back and forth between the two.
I think you just pick one or the other because it's a joke, because, like, they find themselves in a situation, it's like, oh god, we're about to be killed. They leap away. Oh boy, they find themselves in another situation. They just keep leaping within the same show to more and more danger until they find their portal to the next one.
Well, you also get to have the fun of they end up in Doctor When, as opposed to Doctor Who, and they figure out what they're in. It's like, we gotta get to a phone box. Shit. Where are we gonna find that?
How about it's Dr. Why? Doctor, why would you do this?
Great.
The Doctor would never do that. I will die on this hill.
Oh no! It's something like that. Yeah. Like the modernization, but also paying attention to like the parody of it all.
Yeah. So yeah, like that was just like the list of TV shows that I think could not only be instantly recognizable, but also a cultural touchstone, and you could also do a like easy parody of the name, and there's a threat of violence.
Yeah, and we already set up the joke of the skip ad button comes up, but you can't click on it because it's the devil. You can't skip ads, or it's even worse of skip ad in 5, 6, 7, 8. No, it's getting longer. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're also going to have a Crowley, because we need to have, because like they're going to end up in the TV and they don't know what's going on. We need to have someone who explains the situation to them. So, and that character doesn't really need to change. Although the thing that I found interesting is that it sure seemed like everyone who worked for the Demon Corporation were dead humans. Mm-hmm. Because Crowley was like, why are they going after me? I'm already dead.
Oh, he's supposed to be Aleister Crowley, the actual Satanist.
Oh!
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, as far as I can tell. I mean, he's probably just named after him, but I've always been under the assumption that it's the actual Crowley.
Makes sense to me. Who's Spike supposed to be? Just some random...
They said he's one of either Mephistopheles or one of the high up devils.
Crowley did say Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
Whatever. I have my renames for a lot of demons, but I say those for a project of a thing that I'm writing.
Okay.
Or written, I guess. But yeah, okay. What else do we need? What else is missing?
Cast.
Yeah, all right. Let's jump to cast. If we're swapping it around a little bit, I feel like we got to start with Helen.
Okay. I think that it is very important for both Helen and Roy to be TV actors, because John Ritter and Pam Dauber were both TV actors, and I think they have to...
I agree with everything you're saying.
Okay, so for Roy, I'm going to go with Adam Scott.
Adam Scott's a good one. I think Adam Scott is very clever, and I feel like Adam Scott is kind of a good modern John Ritter one-for-one.
Right.
I think that that's great. My Roy is similar but different vibes. It also has a huge influence on who I cast for the kids, because I went with William Jackson Harper.
Oh, okay. I intentionally didn't take anyone who was main cast from The Good Place because of the parallels to this.
I mean, that is fair. I mostly took him.
Okay, that's fine.
It's interesting that you say main cast.
Yes.
There's a chance we have the same Spike.
There's a very good chance. Yeah.
Okay, let's figure out who you have. Let me talk about my Helen then.
Okay.
We'll go back and forth. My Helen, needs to be someone very big in TV, popular, but not the original cast.
Right.
But got added later and is definitely the best one. And so that's why I kind of felt, well, you know who the best character from Big Bang Theory is? Melissa Rauch. I just think she'd be really funny. She has kind of the big bombastic energy of, you let what happen? And if we're doing the flip of she's actually the one who kind of knows what's going on and is kind of the person in charge, Melissa Rauch has that energy. She's the judge on Night Court now.
Yeah. I did tell Sam off mic that I know Melissa. We went to camp together when we were kids, and she is an unbelievably versatile actress. And that's, I think, versatility is absolutely important to both.
So important.
So basically all of the main parts in this. So
agreed.
That I like that pick. She wasn't my pick, but I really like that pick. My pick, I was a little hesitant. I actually picked Helen before Roy, but I was a little hesitant because I was like, oh, I'm taking two people from the same show, but I think it works because their dynamic wasn't always together. And I cast Rashida Jones to be Helen.
That's pretty good too. Ooh, that's also really good.
And because she has both The Office and Parks and Rec, and she's great in everything. Her presence in things is always she's always exasperated but enthusiastic and tired, which is kind of what the parents almost need to be for
I love
you said. Yeah.
Both your casting. The only issue is that I don't know how we would have them together because they're both the perfect straight men.
But I do think Rashida Jones can deliver jokes, though. She did it a lot more in Parks and Rec.
She can, but she was always still... But even as she was delivering those jokes, she was still the straight man to Amy Poehler's Leslie Knope.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. But going back to what I was saying before, because I want Helen to be the one who's doing all the channel jumping later on, I think as an homage to the John Ritter Three's Company, I think when Rashida Jones finds herself in the Office parody or any sort of mockumentary, and she immediately is in front of a confessional, she goes, I don't really like these shows. I think these jokes are kind of cheap. A version of that.
That's an easy win. Yes, that's true. Okay. Ooh. I want to do one of each of ours, but I don't know who to go with.
That's okay.
Let's come back to these two.
Okay.
Let's find out if we both had the same person for Spike.
Okay.
Did we both have Tia Sarkar?
No, I don't know.
Tia Sarkar was the real Eleanor on The Good Place.
Oh, okay. No, I went with Maya Rudolph.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Maya Rudolph as a devil going angry and big and insane
so good
is her wheelhouse. I mean, everything's her wheelhouse. She's great
true.
in everything. But I think, especially once you get to the channel jumping because she has the SNL background and stuff like that, though,
absolutely.
It is sketch comedy.
Yes.
This movie is sketch comedy. And I think that her and Rashida Jones together for those scenes addresses some of what you were saying about Rashida Jones is usually the straight woman. Maya Rudolph would be the comedic foil.
That's true.
For the two of them.
You're right. I will happily take Maya Rudolph over Tia Sarkar. And not just because I tried to cast Tia Sarkar in too many things. But I was like, I can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, she was almost immediately. I knew right off the bat I wanted to gender swap the character because it needed to be done.
Absolutely.
I just think for just in general, it's we've seen enough, evil male TV executives. It's whatever. And she there were a number of people. At first I was considering Jean Smart. I was I do love her, but again, it's got to be someone who can don multiple hats in a row like that.
Maya Rudolph is brilliant, especially because if it's a guy, there's that little element of it being a power fantasy.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a woman like Maya Rudolph, you get to watch her have fun being the absolute worst, and that is just so juicy, so good. I love that. I guess we'll come back to... Did you cast the kids?
No. I honestly, I tried. I was just I don't know.
Because my Roy is William Jackson Harper, I cast two of the kids off of Abbott Elementary. So, whatever. Who did you have for your Crowley?
You're going to hate me for this one.
There's a chance we did the same thing. Continue.
Dan Levy.
Yeah.
Yep. And even make a joke at some point. Look, my father got me this job, but him being the exasperated one, like not the big performance that his father does, but it's like, you know, like I just want to go home. Like
it's a different vibe because you're going to have the bigger spikes. So you want to have the little bit more contained Crowley.
Yep.
And if there's ever a movie where you're going to talk about nepotism in Hollywood, this is it. And that's the perfect place to put it.
Yep, because it's a cute reference to the original without putting someone from the original. Oh, so we're in the drift.
Yeah. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, and also, that might have been the first one I wrote down because I'm like, well, we're going to have to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
The only other cast I have is Pierce.
Okay, yeah, I have for Pierce also.
And then I was like, do I want to cast this other neighbor?
Nah, I don't think
whatever.
so.
We can get a character actor of some kind.
Yeah.
As long as I was in Abbott Elementary, I did Tyler James Williams.
I went with Nicholas Braun from Succession, Cousin Greg.
I haven't watched Succession.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm looking up who Nicholas Braun is. I don't know who this actor is at all.
He's incredibly tall. But it would be sort of a take on his character from Succession, but different enough, which is why I liked it.
Okay, great. I mean, legitimately, if he's playing a version of a character he plays on TV, funny. I love that. That's great.
He's their cousin who's basically glomming on because, like, they're rich and gets sucked into all of the, you know, drama of the family and always chooses the wrong side. So just him being, you know, in the original, Pierce is kind of like, you know, gunning for the top seat right away. Like, to have Pierce be a little more subservient, but then at the end to still be the boss is like very... It is a take on Cousin Greg.
Yes, and if we think about it, Pierce really is a more streamlined version of what a Spike is supposed to do anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what they were thinking.
No.
If I were to take us back to Roy and Helen, I might have us do Rashida Jones and William Jackson Harper.
Okay. Look, I have no problem with that. Like, really,
Sorry, Melissa.
No, the only real reason was because when I started thinking, because I love all the Michael Schur shows, I was like, well, The Good Place is just so obvious. Yeah. And, like, you know, Maya Rudolph had been on that, Adam Scott had been on, but not in main roles.
Yeah,
they were recurring, but I was like, as much fun as it would be to have, like, Ted Danson, especially because he's TV royalty,
Sure.
it's too much. So,
yeah, I agree with you. And the only reason I would push us to William Jackson Harper is because we have to make him not look like Chidi. Like, because you see him in other things now when he doesn't wear glasses and he has a beard, and it's like, oh, right, that's where I know you from.
Yeah. Wow, the two of those, they would have really good-looking kids. I
would hope so. Those kids are Richard Whitney Gardenhire Jr. and Cassidy Geraldine. It doesn't really matter.
I really did put question mark, some kid, some teenager.
Yeah. I happened to find a list where it was like, oh, this kid seems like the right age. Oh, she does too. Cool. I've mentioned this in the podcast so many times, but I'm like, and I probably mentioned it in the Xenon episode, I'm like, if I'm not on a list for how often I've had to Google children, then that is a failure of our system.
I'll be removing my name from this episode after that line.
And rightly so. My God, no one should be involved. Okay, so then that brings us to writer-director. Obviously, we both very much want to write this, although you certainly get first dibs. But I had a writing team and then a separate director. Did you have...
I have a writer in mind, and then I cheated. I have two choices for director, and one is a directing team.
That's fine. Tell me about your writer.
My writer is a friend of mine. She's a former Family Guy writer, Cherry Chiva Pravat Damrong. Because when I was at Family Guy, I was going to pitch a Stay Tuned episode, and then I realized, no, we do that every single episode with the TV gags. Cherry has written for The Orville. She's written for Resident Alien. She co-wrote the movie Joyride. She is one of the funniest people I know. She loves TV too. Like, this would be an absolute perfect fit for her.
Awesome. Okay. I definitely have used her as a writer for something else, but I don't remember what it was. I had the writing team of Dan Greger and Doug Mand. And the reason I went with them, like, they worked on How I Met Your Mother, they worked on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, but I wanted to go with them because they're the writers behind Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Okay, yeah, that movie was fantastic.
Yeah, and in terms of, like, it's very similar to what we're kind of going for here, which is why I think Cherry's probably the correct choice, because she hasn't done this before, and they have. But that's why I went with them, because they've done something like this before, in terms of, like, all these competing narratives and storylines and tying different people together, and they can be trusted to do it because they've done it before. I think Cherry Chiva Pravat Damrong...
Yep, you got it.
I had to look at it.
Yeah.
Is probably the better choice because we get to see an original take as opposed to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Who'd you have for your director?
So I couldn't decide between David Leitch. He directed Fall Guy and Bullet Train, which were unbelievably fun movies.
I go to David Leitch all the time, specifically because of Bullet Train. Bullet Train's so good.
I freaking love that movie. So he was my solo pick, and then my team pick was John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, who did the D&D movie and Game Night. And just because I think they have a lot of comedic versatility for it. But like,
Absolutely.
If I had the money... Well, no. If I had the money, whoever wants to do it, they could do it. But let's hear who you have.
So I went with someone who has, like... They basically have two big things, and I'm like, because of those, yes. And this is a director who did The After Party, which I adore, and The After Party itself is a blending of different genres in such a cool and interesting way, and the fact that it got canceled is unforgivable. He's also the director for Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Oh, okay. All right.
And his name is Eric Appel.
Okay, yeah, I think you have a more honed pick than either of my two.
Sure, okay. And that's kind of the cast.
Yeah.
It's an efficient movie, it's a television episode, we're in, we're out, we're good. Let me tell you about what we're doing. Do we call it Stay Tuned?
Yes.
Okay, we're calling it Stay Tuned.
If I were writing it as an original spec, I would call it something else in the hope that Warner Brothers would then buy it and then rebrand it as Stay Tuned.
Stay Tuned, The Streaming Wars.
I think no colon.
Roy Nabel will be William Jackson Harper. Helen Nabel will be Rashida Jones. Spike will be Maya Rudolph. The kids, Daryl and Diane Nabel, will be Richard Whitney Gardenhire Jr. and Cassidy Geraldine. Crowley will be Dan Levy, because, obviously. Pierce will be Nicholas Braun. All of this will be written by Cherry Chava Pravat Damrong and then directed by Eric Appel. That is Stay Tuned.
I'm there opening night.
Hell yeah. That was quick, efficient, easy, and I loved it. Dan, once again, tell people where you can be found online, and then tell us a little bit about Good Chaotic again.
You can find me on most of the socials at Doonpook. That's DOONPOOK. The movie Dune coming out has really hurt my brand, because everyone assumes it's DUNE, but it's O's, which apparently is called ooglification.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a fun word.
Because it's Dan Peck with O sounds. It's called ooglification.
I enjoy that that's a word.
I learned that guesting on another friend's podcast.
So doing the publicity tour of podcasts. Yeah. Love it.
And Good Chaotic, it's an original sci-fi adventure story brought to you by the folks who I did the Game of Rassilon, which was a Doctor Who role-playing game. And it's about adventurers who reside at the end of the universe. And what that means is the last star in existence is... all the other stars in the sky have burned out, because eventually that will happen. And this massive space station called the Lighthouse is keeping the last star in existence burning. And for over 100,000 years, they've put out the message, if you have nowhere else to go, look to the last light in the sky, come to the Lighthouse. And the adventurers are the team of folks who have to go back in time and take care of like the missions that need to be done to continue the ongoing continuation of life in the universe, essentially. We keep calling it space leverage between ourselves, but it's lots of heists and jobs like that, and just lots of weirdness and comedy and laughs, and we're having an absolute blast, and it will be debuting October 16th.
So for those of you listening to this episode the day it comes out, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool. Exciting. Awesome. If you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Ideal Remake, like the podcast, or you can find me on BlueSky at Sam Gasch, SAMGASCH. And that's pretty much it. If you can think of any genres that we haven't covered, or if you have any silly, goofy names for like segments for TV shows, let me know in the Discord, which has information in the show notes. And yeah, that's the episode. I will end this episode the same way I end every episode. Dan, what is your favorite quote from the movie Stay Tuned?
I do that sometimes.